So, welcome everyone to this wonderful meeting of Tigertales Toastmasters, where we have the theme that it's summer. Although we are halfway through summer, but it's fun to remember good things which we do in summer. So, without further ado, I would like to hand over to our Toastmaster of the day, Tanay.
Hello everyone. So this is our first meeting of our summer term with the new e-board, and I just want to welcome everyone. And since we have like our last e-board's last meeting was only last week, so welcome again. This week we start with the new e-board and with a theme that is just going around in Rochester, which is summer. And today we have three speakers lined up who are going to share their three different speeches. But before we begin the speeches, let me just introduce the functionaries. And for the functionaries, I'll start with the timer today, who is Alex. Alex, can you share us about your role today?
Yes. Hello, fellow Toastmasters. Today I will be your timer, which means I will be helping to keep each of our speakers, evaluators, and table topic speakers on time by giving them an indication. So I'll be using my phone with the Toastmasters timer to show a green screen when they've qualified for their speech time. For our speakers, that'll be at 5 minutes. At 6 minutes, I'll show a yellow screen, and at 7 minutes, I'll show a red screen, which means they have 30 seconds to wrap up. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Alex. And now we'll move on to the next functionary, which is our accountant, Sridhar. Sridhar, can you explain your role today?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So I'll be your R counter today. So my role is to count the filler words and overused words that the speakers would be using for this meeting. So I'll make a note and give a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
And finally, moving on to the grammarian, who is Kelly. Kelly, can you share with us your role today and also the word of the day?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. I'm going to be your grammarian tonight, and I'll be looking for interesting use of language, grammar, and phrases. Tonight, we're also going to be using the word of the day, which is leisurely. So I'll be looking for everyone to try to use it in their speeches spontaneously, and also for our table topics, we'll need to be using this word. It can be used as an adjective or an adverb. As an adjective, leisurely means acting or done at leisure, unhurried or relaxed. As an adverb, it means without hurry. And an example of this word being used in a sentence is, Matt and I took a leisurely kayak trip on Lake Placid last week to celebrate our anniversary. Mr. Table Topics Master, or I mean, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, now we'll move on to the speakers. And today the first speaker is Sarah, and evaluating Sarah is Ajita. Ajita, can you tell us about Sarah's speech and what you're looking for in her speech? Ajita, your mic is off.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'll be evaluating Sarah's speech today. Sarah is doing her project 3 in level 2 in the coaching pathway. And this project is about mentorship. And since this is the first time Sarah is doing a speech on this virtual environment, so I will be looking about how she uses this space efficiently. And looking forward to hearing a great speech from you, Sarah. Over to Mr. Toastmaster.
So as you all know, I have worked with Sarah when I was the president, and she was an excellent member in the e-board and used to contribute in every single meeting with her ideas. And I personally think that she's one of the nicest people that I have met. And when I first got to know Sarah when I gave a speech about me accidentally meeting a person who had worked in Apollo space program. And after the meeting, she came and talked to me about her science fiction interest. And she told me that she was interested in how she's interested in science fiction and Doctor Who specifically. So today she's giving a speech which is titled Heart, Non-Fiction and Science Fiction. Help me welcome Sarah.
Are any of you science fiction fans? Honestly, I used to think sci-fi was for geeks, nerds, and weirdos like tonight. And I suppose that may be true, but now I'm one of them. And it all started with Doctor Who. For those of you who aren't nerds, Doctor Who is an ancient alien who can travel throughout all of time and space in his fairly unreliable ship, the TARDIS. It's a silly, ridiculous program with a lot of antics and so much running. But that's not all there is to it. Woven into every character are truths about the capacity and nature of the human heart. Embedded into the very foundation of every episode are principles that call us all higher. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I could not possibly share every piece of wisdom from the 57 years that Doctor Who has been on the air, but I will share a few that impacted me the most. The Doctor, like all of his species, chose his name as a promise of who he would become. To him, that promise was never cruel nor cowardly. That theme permeates the show in a multitude of ways, but none more clearly than this quote from an episode that aired in 1973. Courage isn't just a matter of not being frightened, you know. It's being afraid and doing what you have to do anyway. Time and time again, the Doctor faces monsters and villains with courage and without the cruelty of weapons. He won't even assume that someone or something destructive has malicious intentions. A huge piece of that courage without cruelty is taking the time to find out why those around him are acting the way they are, even at his own risk. I needed the Doctor's kind of courage to open my heart, to see beyond the hurtful or frustrating behavior of people in my past and present, and to understand their stories and motivations, learning how they'd been shaped by what had happened to them. The Doctor values every life and will do all that he can to help or save others, even those that oppose him. He never considers anyone as disposable or lesser than anyone else. In an episode in 2010, a miserly old man claimed a young girl to be nobody important. And the Doctor's response was, in 900 years of time and space, I've never met anyone who wasn't important. This was especially convicting for me because when I first saw that episode, I wasn't even aware that I saw some people as more important than others. I saw myself as more important than others. The pre-Doctor me never would have danced with teenagers with disabilities or sung Johnny Cash songs with a guy who lives in a gazebo at the park. And I'm continuing to remind myself to courageously acknowledge every person's importance daily. The Doctor also played a role in helping me move past my own self-pity. I used to waste hours at a time, sulking in the slimy sorrow of all the hurts and difficulties in my life. And then I would spend days, weeks, months even, denying or ignoring them. Now, there were many people and many strategies who helped me out of that cycle. So I certainly won't attribute even a large portion of that healing to the doctor, but he definitely put words to the balance that I had been lacking. In one of the most beautiful episodes in 57 years, where he and his friend meet the brilliant but depressed Vincent van Gogh, the doctor says, every life is a pile of good things and bad things. The good things don't always soften the bad things, but vice versa. The bad things don't necessarily spoil the good things or make them unimportant. And we definitely added to Van Gogh's pile of good things. Over the years, I've been learning to acknowledge the bad things without allowing them to spoil the good things or make them unimportant. More than that, it's invigorated me to get out there and courageously add to other people's piles of good things, because they are also important. Yes, Doctor Who is a goofy TV show where they have dinosaurs on spaceships, and the most dangerous species in the universe has a toilet plunger for an arm. But it's so much more than that. And I don't just mean the novels, comic books, and audio adventures that are also amazing. There will never be a substitute for deep in-person mentorship, and I would never undermine its value. But we can be changed and even to some degree mentored by what we see and read if we open our eyes to the lessons offered to us. Through the doctor's antics, I've learned that courage is acting even when it's scary. I've learned to value all people as equally important. And I've learned to acknowledge the bad things, but not let them spoil the growing pile of good things. To anyone with an openness and willingness to hear it, Doctor Who is able to convey transformative heart nonfiction through the venue of science fiction. In a sense, the lines of fiction and nonfiction are arbitrary, or as the doctor would say, wibbly wobbly, because, as the doctor would also say, we're all stories in the end. Just make it a good one, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Sarah, for that speech. Mr. Timer, can we have 1 minute so that we can give feedbacks to Sarah about her speech? All right, let's move on to the next speaker today, who is Allah Sarah, and evaluating him is Preetham. Preetham, can you tell us about Allah Sarah's speech and what you're looking for in a speech?
Absolutely, Tanay. Alasera is working on a very interesting project, and this is one of the most exciting projects I've ever seen in Pathways. So the project he's working on, he had to do some preparation for doing this speech. So the overview of the project is that Alasera has kept a daily record of his moods and attitudes. noting when he felt positive and negative, and record and evaluate what are the changes he was going through. So he's going to share all of that with us in this speech. And the purpose of this project is to practice being aware of his thoughts and feelings, as well as his impact of his responses on others. So he's going to share that self-study lesson with us today with his speech, with the name of the project being Focus on the Positive. So that's the name of the project, and that's the pathway project Alasera is working on. Back to Tanay.
Thank you, Pritham. So, in his own words, I know that Alasera is an alien and he can time travel and he can move so fast that you cannot see him. And last year, I got to know Alasera when I was working with him in the e-board, and I realized that he is very passionate about education and just educating what he knows and spreading his knowledge forward. And I've also noticed that he's very positive in general. And today he's giving a speech which is titled Leisurely and Positively Positive, when you've got nowhere else to go but up. Help me welcome Alasera.
Have you ever found yourself in a situation when you thought, oh, there is nowhere else to go but up, and keep sinking as if there were no bottom? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and any eventual guests in the meander of the universe. The beginning of this journey started a couple of days with Greenworks lawnmower. It is summer. And something that back home when we do not need any specialized tool to cut our grass. We just grab them and done. But here, I discovered a lawnmower. Everything was green and great. Life was beautiful. Until the battery decided not to work anymore. Sad, I told myself. I said, how about calling the customer service, which back home is another story for another day. I called her. Hello, he said, dear valued customer, what can we help you with today? I go, oh, my battery stopped working. She goes, oh, that's not a problem. I'll get this fixed and you will come over and mow my grass as well. And we all laughed, ha 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 ha. And that was it. A couple of days later, I received a call from Greenworks customer service. Hello, sir. What it is that we can help you with? I go, oh, my battery stopped working. She goes, what is your problem? I said, I don't know. She said, okay, take a wild guess and let me know what it is. I said, okay. When I plug in the battery, it just keeps blinking red and nothing happens. She goes, oh, that's fine. We'll just ship you one. I was like, okay, interesting. Since I was the person who looked at the serial number and the date of it, I go, oh, is it possible to make a request and have a 2020 battery and not a 2019? She goes, I cannot guarantee that. You will get what you will get and just be happy. I'm like, well, being an entrepreneur, I didn't want to just go and return this product because I wanted to try my best for them to show the best part of themselves. Some days later, the battery has been shipped, arrived, I rush, I go open it, and boom. The unaccepted was expected. And I open it and I see this tiny short battery. I was like, whoa, are they mocking me? Indeed, they were really mocking me because the battery that needed to be replaced was a larger battery with 80 volts as well, but a 4.0 HA. I was frustrated because my grass are growing and they are about to encircle us and maybe starting eating us. I guess that's why people need to cut them. I don't know. That's just my guess. So I take everything back to Costco because you know what? Costco, there is one thing that they do great, which is customer satisfaction guaranteed. And I was ha ha ha. I went there, and then we packed everything. We went. We said, "Oh, this is what happened," and they said, "Oh, no problem. You will just get your money back." You will think that the story ends there. No, it didn't. And then we looked into the store, and there was no more lawnmower in the store. And I was thinking in back of my mind, maybe I shouldn't have returned it after all. But was things done. So what we did, we go online, and then we shopped for a new one. And guess with whom again? With Greenworks. Ah, those people. But the story doesn't stop there. So we are waiting for a new full-grown lawnmower, which is on its way, hopefully coming soon. And that reminded me back in Senegal when we were participating in a competition, and then there they hired a cook. So this cook was so expensive that you would think that the plates that he will put in front of you will suffice you for the next couple months. Guess what? When the food was ready, it was so tiny, 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 to the point that only looking at the food will make the plate empty. And being the spokesperson of the team, I said, man, look at me. You see, do you know the length of my column? Do you know how much food I need to just stand? And as a side note, I always get this joke. They're like, Tapo, you always eat our food, but we don't see you putting on fat or anything. I always tell them back, you know what? I eat everything, but it goes to my brain. So don't blame me. It's not my fault. Once there, I meet the guy. I said, you know what? This is something that's not sustainable for us. And we cannot really do this. Because I knew what to tell to him to really push him so hard so that he said, you know what? You will get your food free. And don't bother even talking to me. Because you guys, you are really not nice. And I go back again. I speak with him calmly, explaining him the situation that we are in. He goes, okay, understood. And guess what? We got the best portion available and at a much cheaper price. And that reminds me of Mali. Mali, which only when you translate the name into English, it might mean hippopotamus, but you will be mistaken to think that. Because recently someone pointed out that an hippopotamus is the most selfish and dumbest animal on earth. What does it do? It goes around, eats what it needs to eat, and then poop on everything else and destroy everything else. He gives us another definition of money, which is the sweetness of mankind. But unfortunately, its leaders so far have only been not being able to uphold to its name and its great meaning, but with lack of a clear vision, leadership, and integrity. But there is hope, because leisurely and surely, the young people are being mindful. They know this, they know history, they know what has been done in the past, they know what is being done. And for one thing for sure, they know what is not to be done so that history doesn't repeat itself. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Alasera, for your speech. Mr. Timer, can we have 1 minute so that we can give feedback to Alasera? Thank you, Alex. So now let's move on to the third speaker of the meeting, and our third speaker is Xavier, and evaluating Xavier is Cyril. Cyril, can you tell us about Xavier's speech and what you're looking for in a speech? Cyril, your mic is off.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. It's a real pleasure for me tonight to evaluate Xavier, who is a seasoned Toastmaster. And today, Xavier will be delivering the level 3 of dynamic leadership pathway speech. And the aim of this project is to be able to learn about different types of negotiation and strategies that will be used in negotiations, and also to share some aspect of past and future negotiation in his life. So tonight, Xavier is looking at sharing some negotiation experiences, and he wants to negotiate the best outcome out of it. And I would also be looking at the way he shares information and the way he engages with the audience. And the title of this speech is Levels of Connection. Good luck, Mr. Xavier.
Thank you, Cyril. So as we know that Xavier has been the past president and he has done all sorts of roles in the e-board in the club, and now he's back again with the VP of Education role. And a lot of people don't know this, but Xavier was one of the reasons that I joined the club. When I first came to when I first attended a meeting of Toastmaster, he was the one giving a speech, and his speech was the reason why I was convinced to join the club. I had felt a sense of connection through his speech, and today he's just going to talk about his different levels of connection, and I'm more than excited to know what he's going to give a speech about. So help me welcome Xavier with the title Level of Connections.
My challenge to understand different negotiation tactics and really think about a time in my life where negotiation has really helped. I can tell you I learned one huge thing about negotiation thinking about this, and that is it doesn't work. And here's why. If I were to steal Matt Matt's jacket and play doctor for a little bit, I would say something like this. Well, you see, negotiation only solves the symptoms. But if you want to solve the underlying problem, you need something much bigger. So, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, how do you solve this underlying problem? What is it in the first place? The answer, right in my title, Levels of Connection. And on this whiteboard here, I hope you guys can see it, I have the levels of connection. It starts, the highest level is empathy and goes all the way down to apathy. And empathy, this spot is a beautiful place to be, and it's a very rare spot to be. And I want to kind of share why, and I can share examples right from this club, which is amazing. A few years back, when I was VP membership, I brought in 45 members to the club. And while this was great news for me, our small Egyptian VP education was going crazy. She was asking everyone, how many speeches do you want? How many speeches do you want? How many speeches do you want? And then when she tallies these numbers, she's pulling out her hair because it's, how do I satisfy so many speeches? At that point, we had a club DNA where we only had 2 speeches per meeting. And in order to satisfy all of these speeches, that was not going to work. So when Dahlia comes to the club e-board and with this problem, we're in a complete empathetic lock with her because we're so excited for all of these new members, but understand that they're hungry to find spots in speaking spots to fill and to grow from it. So we talked about many different outcomes. Do we meet on weekends? Do we have a second meeting? Speechathons every week? Do we add a speaking slot? The decision we ended up going with was adding a third speaking slot because that was going to satisfy the needs of our members, in addition to having a few speech-a-thons as well. And that's how beautiful this empathy stage can be. But there's a few other important things as well. The second thing is, it can take a long time to get up there. You could start from anywhere here, depending on your group size, and it could take a good while to get up. But on the other hand, a couple of people can start right out at empathy and stay there because they are willing to come right into it. The last thing is, there's a reason I put this bar on a slope. It wasn't because of board space. It's because you can slide right on down to apathy so quickly if you're not careful. And it takes work just to stay in place, let alone move up this slide. And to move from this 10,000-foot view, this idea, into something that is right in the trees, I'm going to talk about a story that we all know and have experienced or had experienced to people very close to us. It starts with two young lovers that are very close. They have these shared moments, this smile, these connections, and they fall in love. They have this empathetic lock to understand each other's needs and are easily just fulfilling them. Over time, they get married and have kids, and those needs start to separate a little by a little more because of their time commitments. And soon enough, they start seeing less of each other, but still have a respect for what they're doing. Until those little problems that were kind of brushed under are now becoming bigger and bigger. And because they're brushed under, these two lovers have these grudges from before. And these small problems become big arguments. And it feels like they're just arguing all the time. Until the bottom level of apathy, the worst, silence. The separation feels like 1,000 miles, and sometimes is. This is how far the slide can go down, but it doesn't have to. And even if it does, it doesn't have to stay that way. You see, there's many stories of success, and I want to tell one of those as well. In 2014, I came to RIT not knowing a single person in Rochester at all. So when I sit down and look at my buddy, well, not my buddy at that time, just some dude, in the first row of my calc class, I didn't expect us to become best friends. I also didn't expect his name to be Xavier. And I also didn't expect us to have all the same classes together. So we studied together and started learning about each other's interests. But one huge problem came in between us. There was a disconnect. I didn't understand why people of color got more opportunities or exclusivity for these scholarships that I couldn't get, because my view was that I had a pretty poor life compared to the people around me in my group. But while this could have turned into something that was apathy, this separation, and we kind of just both go on our own ways, Xavier had the patience for me to grow, to learn through this. And I had that little voice in my head saying, you know what? You might be wrong because somebody important to you is saying this thing. And through the growth in Toastmasters and learning these stories, and through life experiences, getting to know Xavier better, I understood that when I applied for a job, what they saw was a white male with this GPA. Whereas when my friend Tunjamuga applies for a job, what they see is someone that's not going to fit their culture, and that resume goes right into the trash without even looking at the GPA. So understanding that and growing through it, Xavier and I managed to get to this level of empathy, this thing that we should strive for because it's beautiful, where we can sit down and understand, connect immediately. And now I can understand the injustices that have happened within his life and why why that situation was wrong in my case. Therefore, Empathy is where we strive for. Leadership is how we get there. And the important way to get there is to visualize where you're at constantly and to grow from it. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Xavier, for that speech. Mr. Timer, can we have 1 minute so that we can give feedback to Xavier about his speech? All right. So now that we are done with the prepared speeches, now we can move to the next section of the meeting, which is table topics. And to move on to the next section of the table topics, we need to introduce our table topics master, which is Chitra. So help me welcome Chitra.
Hello, everybody. The first session of the prepared speeches was all people who prepared for their speech for days, weeks, and then they deliver it over here. This session is all about you do not have time to prepare. Just go to the session where you start talking. Before that, before we go on to the session, I would like to have the functionaries talk about the rules of the session. Let's hear from our timer, Alex, about the rules of table topics. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Sorry, my cat got out. The timing rules for table topics are 1 to 2 minutes. So I will show you a green screen at 1 minute, a yellow screen at 1.5 minutes, and a red screen at 2 minutes, and you will have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you, Alex. Let's welcome our grammarian, Kelly, to tell us about the word of the day.
Today's word of the day is leisurely, and I'm looking for all our table topic speech qualifiers to use it tonight in your speech to qualify for, I don't know, our virtual prize. And the word leisurely means, as an adjective, you can use it to describe something acting or done in leisure, unhurried or relaxed. Or as an adverb, it means without hurry. A sentence with that example is, Matt and I took a leisurely kayak trip on Lake Placid for 4 hours last week to celebrate our anniversary. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Kelly. To qualify for the table topics competition, you should use the word of the day and you should be on time. I would like to have some volunteers who would like to pick up. Anybody? And start picking people up. Cyril, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's the spirit. How would you describe your ideal summer in a word and why?
Last year, I spent my very first summer in the United States. After a few months of cold, that was actually my first winter. I remember in the beginning, my first snow, I was like, oh, look at this, it's beautiful. And then after a few days, I was like, oh no, I can't do this. So yeah, in the beginning, I was sending videos to my parents all the time and my friends. And by the end, I was like, no, I'm so fed up. So I couldn't wait for summer to experience summer here in the United States. And I didn't really like the city, Rochester, because I just came and then I jumped into the winter and I didn't have time to discover the city properly. But something really interesting happened over the summer, and I spent time leisuring with some of my friends, discovering the city. For instance, I was able to visit most of the lakes, and I went, for instance, to the beach where we spend time walking around and also doing some barbecue. And I will always go there almost every week. And also I was able to see very nice faces of the city. There's a lot of colors, flowers, trees, and there's a lot of concerts going on, and the city was so vibrant, and I fell in love with the city. And right now I moved to Tennessee just 3 weeks ago, but I'm already missing Rochester, and I'm also missing the snow that I initially hated a lot. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Cyril, for explaining how different it was, somewhat different it was from what we originally were used to. Next on the line, who would like to go? Sridhar, would you like to join?
Sure, I can try.
Yeah. What's one habit or a hobby you picked up during summer?
So what's one hobby that I picked up during summer? I think last year I tried this new hobby, playing guitar. I've always wanted to play some musical instrument, and for some reason I never got an opportunity, or maybe I didn't actually look forward to play an instrument. Just last summer I just picked up, after coming back from India, my family was away, and then just bought a guitar and enrolled in a guitar class, and I'm playing now. So that's the one that I picked up, and it does help to spend time leisurely with friends. And I think that I'm enjoying my instrument right now, playing guitar and attending classes. And over to you, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Sridhar. Matt wants to join us for a table topic session, and
Come here, I'll take your phone. Do you want me to get you a new one?
if you were to take 3 people from history to spend the summer with, who would you take and why?
This is for me?
Yeah.
Nice.
I wasn't sure. Woo! 3 people from history. Okay. Even one would be a lot. Mrs. Madam, Table Topics Master and Toastmasters. I'm going to start with a fictional character first. I would want to spend a summer with Atticus Finch. And Atticus is a man who I could learn so much from. He is not rash. I tend to be a bit impetuous and sometimes make quick decisions and get pushed around by my emotions, and this is not Atticus Finch at all. Coupled with, he is a man of incredible character and the strength to act on his convictions. As we all know from To Kill a Mockingbird. And to be able to spend time with this man who back in the, when was that? Gosh, I don't remember, turn of the century, really fought against injustice in a way that we're seeing even today, of course, still happening in the same similar ways, would be phenomenal. So Atticus Finch for sure. And in addition to him, I think that's enough, actually. I'm going to go with Atticus Finch and drop it from 3 to 1. Madam Table Topics Master.
You didn't use the word.
Oh, I didn't see you. Leisurely.
That was great. To think about somebody from history to being something different and difficult to think about as well. Who would like to go next?
I can go next.
Oh. Hi, Preetham. Oh, just a moment. What would your ideal day look like if you had to spend your summer in Mars?
Oh, nice. That is a great question. I think about that every day. I think a day in Mars would look pretty much the same, because if I were in Mars, I would enjoy the time there by eating food. And after eating food, a day would look like getting up, drinking a glass of water, going to the bathroom to do biological duties and take a shower. I sometimes don't take a shower every day. So if my wife is there with me, she will shout at me for taking a shower because I'm stinking. Then it would be doing some yoga, meditating, reading some book. Then if I go to Mars, if the days are like this, probably I am doing a PhD at my leisure time. And when I'm leisurely, I am writing my PhD thesis. I hope that we'll have a good Zoom connection to Earth, because I don't know if my professor will be willing to travel to Mars to me to guide me for my PhD. So we'll have meetings over Zoom from Mars to Earth. And I'll defend my PhD online. What is the time? I don't know even the time. I can't see the timer. So I'll keep on speaking about what are the other things I would be doing. I think if there are other aliens on the planet, I will go visit them, talk with them, have tea with them. I don't know if they would like tea, if the Martians like tea, but I'll get some tea with me. Okay, it's green now. Okay, so I have talked about Martians, and I think Mars has a very peculiar thing that it has 2 moons that are shaped like craters. It's like a rock that is placed. It's not round, unlike other planets that are round. It's not round. So if I can go to Mars, maybe I can also go to Mars's moon. So I'll go to Mars's moon, have a good time there, walk around the moon, and see the whole solar system, explore the whole solar system. So that's what I'll do in Mars. Back to the topics, Master.
Thank you, Preetham, for describing your ideal day in Mars. Mr. Timer, do we have time for one more?
Time is 7:22, and our general evaluator is scheduled to start at 7:20, so no.
Oh, okay then. With that, I would like to have the timer's remote. Did everybody do well on time?
Sridhar, just by the hair of his chinny chin chin, made it over 1 minute. So all of our table topics folks qualified for time.
Thank you, Alex. The grammarian Kelly, what did everybody do with the word of the day?
Matt didn't use it.
Oh.
I think I heard Preetham use it. Can everybody?
Yeah, I think he used it.
Okay. I thought I heard him use it once. So everybody else is fine.
Is that right? Okay. I'm sending you a poll, guys. You can vote for the table topic speaker you like the most. Launch polling. No, not this. How do I? So you can vote your favorite speaker in that.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
Not Matt.
With that, I would like to hand over the session to the Toastmaster of the day, Tanay.
Thank you, Chitra, for conducting the wonderful table topics section. And now we'll move on to the next section, which is evaluations. So we've seen the speech, we've heard all the speeches that all the three speakers had given, and now the evaluators will share the feedback with us and with them. So to conduct the evaluation section, we have a general evaluator, Hassan, who is going to conduct this section. So help me welcome Hassan.
Thank you, Tanai. Hello, everybody. Toastmasters International has 4 core values, which are respect, integrity, service, and excellence. Now, I do think that the best way to achieve excellence is to evaluate ourselves. And that's why evaluation is in the heart of our educational program. So today we'll listen to 3 evaluators who will evaluate the speakers. Then I will call upon the functionaries for the reports. And finally, I will give my evaluation for the overall meeting. Before we start, I would like to call on the timer Alex, give us a guideline for the speech evaluations. Alex?
Our evaluators will be timed by the timer, who's me, from 2 to 3 minutes. So I will show a green signal at 2 minutes, a yellow signal at 2.5 minutes, and a red signal at 3 minutes, at which point they will have 30 seconds to finish their evaluation.
Thank you, Alex. The first evaluator is Ajita, who is evaluating Sarah. Before the meeting, I asked Ajita what's her favorite leisure activity during summer, and her answer was cooking biryani. Just kidding. He said hiking in the river and enjoying the cool and refreshing breeze. Join me welcoming Ajita.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Sarah. Thank you for sharing the character of Doctor Who with us. I really enjoyed the way you brought the character to life and shared his teachings and how they impacted your life and how they helped you get over some of your fears and use them in your life. That was really good. And thank you for sharing one of the very good quote you shared. And coming to the virtual space, I observed that even though you had a limited space, but you used a lot of gestures, a lot of hand gestures, and you also tried using different voice when you were talking about Doctor Who. That was really interesting. I did observe some breakage in the voice. Maybe it was due to network. So next time you can have a quick check so that your speech is not interrupted in between. And another suggestion would be it would be interesting to maybe see a background of Doctor Who's character in the background, because for someone like me who have not seen Doctor Who, I was kind of imagining a nice imaginary character in my head. So that could be a good addition. Overall, it was great listening to how your interaction with Doctor Who was. It felt as if it was a real world character, although it was virtual, and how he impacted your life as a mentor. And yeah, thank you for sharing the beautiful story with us. Over to Mr. General Evaluator.
Sorry. Thank you, Ajita. The second evaluator is Pitam, who is evaluating Alasera. Pitam's favorite leisure activity during summer is giving and receiving feedback. He considers feedback the breakfast of leaders. And Toastmaster is certainly the best place to learn how to give and receive feedback. Pitam, over to you.
Thank you, Hassan. I am evaluating Alasera on his speech where he was focusing on the positive. So Alasera, I really admired how you stood up for the speech. It shows that you were serious about sharing a message with us, sharing your story with us about your journey that you went through with that magical package. So how you can improve your storytelling, Alasera, is that you have already the enthusiasm and desire to tell the story. The only thing that is missing in your story, from my viewpoint, is a shape of a story. So you have to take a character, which is you, Alasera, through a journey when you are sharing a story. And I'll share my screen and show what I mean. So this is a wonderful thing about online meetings, that I can draw and even share my screen just like drawing on a whiteboard. So Alasera, so how I'm asking you to shape your story is that if you look at storytelling, this is a very general graph to understand storytelling. This is good fortune, this is ill fortune. You are good fortune, you are jumping off your chair, having a blast in your life, making millions of dollars, and ill fortune is you have nothing to eat, you're probably in rags. And this is the beginning and this is the end in the X and Y axis. Okay, it's a good, easy to understand for engineers. So if you can use 3 parts of a story. So like you are a good guy making good money story, and suddenly you receive a package that has a top secret information. And you follow that information and then you lose everything in your life. And then you meet someone, he helps you improve, and then you come out of it even at a better position. Okay. The next thing I'll say that another shape that you can use, that you are an average man not expecting anything, and then you get a package that has a magic lamp. You rub that lamp, then you find a genie. The genie takes you somewhere. He makes your life hell. He puts you through so many challenges, and at the end, you again come out victorious. And the third part of the story is where somebody has told a story structure like this. They have always made $1 million or have made 1 billion followers. So that is somewhere like people start at the very, very low section of the society. Nothing, no education, nothing, nobody to help him. Then they meet someone like a princess, meets someone who gives them shoes, then gives them a transportation. Then she goes to a banquet, then she meets the prince, and then everlasting happiness. And then she loses the shoe and she loses everything. And then she meets the prince again, and then she comes back again with everlasting happiness. So those are the 3 story structures. So when you talk about your journey, think about when you're focusing on the positive, there is positive all the way, because usually the character learns the most in the negative part of the story. That is the learning zone. This is the learning zone. There is no learning happening here. This is just enjoyment of the suffering happening on the top part. So if you can structure your story like this, you will be able to transfer your message to the audience better. So Alasera, you have an incredible enthusiasm for sharing a story. Just when sharing your story, take the character and take him through a journey of highs and lows. And every step of the way, he's learning to become a better person. All right, back to the general evaluator.
I always forget that I'm a general evaluator. Thank you very much, Pritam. Now we are listening to our third evaluator who is currently in Tennessee, but thanks to Zoom, he is evaluating Xavier. Cyril has many activities during summer, for instance, road trips, hiking, outdoor reading, something he can do in Burkina Faso because of the burning sun. his favorite leisure activity is barbecuing. Cyril, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. Indeed, the first thing I did when I came in Tennessee was to do barbecue. So I had the pleasure to evaluate Xavier, and Xavier, I really enjoyed your speech. I was able to be inspired, and I'm confident that all the members of the audience were also inspired. We received a lot of information about the different levels of connections. You made use of different stories to show us the different level of connections, which I really enjoyed. You talked about the Toastmasters experience, you talked about the Lovers story, and you also talked about your time at RIT and your connection with your friends. You also made use of the rule of three to share those stories, which is really great. And you made use of different voice tones, and you were also able to perfectly impersonate different characters. I especially enjoyed when you impersonated the doctor. You used the voice of a doctor. I don't know what the voice of a doctor looks like, but this is what we used to see in cartoons and TVs. And you made this gesture like pushing the glasses on your nose, which most of the doctors that we used to see on TVs and cartoons usually wear. This was really interesting. And something you could probably improve for your next speech is to use a better visual. I don't know if it is due to the internet, but I wasn't able to see what you showed on the board. Maybe you could have used something like Pritam just did, or a paper to approach it to the camera. Maybe some of the members in the audience share the same thing like me. And you used a lot of poses towards the end. This is what I've noticed, which made it a little bit longer, because I feel like you were a little bit out of time, which the timer might be able to confirm. And apart from that, this was a really great speech, and we were all able to connect with the story which you were looking at. And different levels of connection is something that personally we experience in our daily life, because we meet a lot of people, and the first impression usually makes this person at the top of the graphic that you showed, empathy, or probably the person will start from the bottom, apathy, and grow to empathy. So this was a great speech, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Cyril, for this feedback. Now we move on to the reports from our functionaries, starting with the timer. Alex.
So I'll start with our speakers. Two of our speakers qualified. Unfortunately, Xavier went a little bit over with his speech. Our table topics contenders all qualified, and our evaluators also all qualified for their times.
Thank you, Alex. Now we'll call on the counter leader.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So let me start with the speakers. Sarah, I didn't catch any of the filler words in your speech. And Ella Sarah, there were 3 filler words. It's mostly so. And for Xavier, just 1 filler word. And then for the table topics, Master Chitra, you had 5 filler words. Most of them were ah. And for the table topic speaker, Cyril, you also did the evaluation. So you had 16 filler words. Most of them were ah. And And myself, even I had some filler words, As, 3. And Matt, 2 of them, ums. And for Preetham, got 6 filler words, it's As and so. And our Toastmaster could catch 6 filler words, most of them were are. And for the general evaluation, Hassan, I couldn't catch anything of yours. And for Ajita, she used 7 filler words, and most of them were ands. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sridhar. And our last functionary is the grammarian Kelly for her report about the use of language. Kelly, over to you.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and I don't think there's any guests tonight, but that's okay. First of all, oh, there's my counter. The word of the day was used by Sarah. She said leisurely old man in her speech. And, oh, that's not what you said. It sounded like leisurely. But anyways, maybe it was already incorporated in there. All of our table topics, speakers used it except for Matt. Sarah, I loved the research part that you did. 57 years of Doctor Who would have known? And the quotes that you use from Doctor Who, for example, courage is being afraid of what you have to do anyways, or every life is a pile of good things and bad things. And at the end, we're all stories in the end, just make it a good one. So those were great ways to incorporate things from the episodes that were watched using the quotes from that. And you also had a metaphor with a toilet plunger for an arm. Dinosaurs on spaceships, I'm not quite sure what type of grammar that is, but it sounds very interesting to think about. And Alasara, you had a alliteration, everything was green and great. Also, your use of sound effects was very very good. You used a lot of sound effects, and it was effective. Also, I eat everything, but it goes to my brain. That was an interesting use of grammar as well. For Xavier, you had an idiom that Dahlia had been pulling out her hair. Also, you used a good analogy of describing what separation is feeling like 1,000 miles away. Those were most of my notes on grammar. Were for the speakers. If you have any other questions or concerns about your grammar, you can talk to me at the end. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Now it's time to me to give my feedback about the meeting. I will start with the timing. Today we started late at 6:33 instead of 6:30. And I'm not sure we'll finish by 7:45. We had 3 great speeches and also 3 great evaluations. Congratulations to Ajita and Cyril who evaluated for the first time, and Preetham, I really like the use of the board for the evaluation. The players, they really explained their role well, and I really like also the word of the day, which is also easy to use. The Toastmaster of the day, he led the meeting with enthusiasm, and he warmly introduced the speakers. For the topics, Shritra, I really like the poll. This is something we should use for our meetings now. And the questions were also easy to understand. And something we can improve, that Kelly talked about it, is the fact that we don't have any guests. This is the second or third meeting in a row without guests. I think we should try to bring our friends or relatives who are leisurely enjoying their summer. Let's try next time to have more guests at our meeting. Thank you very much. It's the Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Hassan, for conducting the wonderful general evaluation section. So now let me announce the winner of the best table topic speaker. But before that, I need a drum roll, or else I'll not announce it. Is there a drum roll coming? The best table topic speaker is Cyril. Cyril, you can collect a virtual chocolate from the president.
I prefer a nice barbecue.
Okay. All right. So with that, I hand over the meeting to the president, Hassan.
Thank you very much, Tanai. Thank you to all the speakers and evaluators. Really had a great meeting, as I said. Next time, we should try to have more guests, and because the objective for this semester should be to recruit more members, and have members we have first to invite them to the meeting. So we are supposed to finish at 7:45, and it's exactly 7:44. It is time to end the meeting. Thank you very much. See you next time.